Hello everyone, my name is Lami Gidado. Welcome to the Play to Heal podcast, where we talk about the therapeutic powers of play and the journey of a play therapist in the playroom. So join us as we engage in reflective and playful conversations and explore how we can heal through play across the lifespan. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you.
Hi everyone, today you're welcome to the Play to Heal podcast, and as usual with me today I have Mrs. Lami Gidado. You're welcome, ma. Today we'll be talking about a very interesting topic, the role of play in child development. I hope you get blown away today, like as usual. Welcome, ma.
Thank you, sir. Okay. So, play is important for child development. How else can we say it? We're going to look at all the different areas of child development and what play does for all of those areas. We know that as caregivers, we should be promoting holistic development in children. We need to be thinking about all the different areas of development. And the amazing thing or the exciting thing about play is that it's one of those things that you can use to promote child development, all-round child development. So we'll look at each of those areas one after the other. Let's start with physical development.
Yeah.
So physical development, I think it's one of the areas that people understand more easily that play plays a role in. So I think the first thing I want to talk about is fine and gross motor skills. I know that most teachers are aware of this. Many parents are aware of the fact that children can develop fine and gross motor skills through play. But somehow we still deprive children of that opportunity. So for example, this is a controversial issue in Nigeria. Should a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old be writing? What do you think, Sam?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because at that stage there are still some, just like you spoke about the fine motor skills, there are still muscles that are still being developed. So I feel at that stage it is not well formed to even start to talk about, writing.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I think that's something that parents need to understand, because the pressure comes from parents usually, not teachers. Oh, my child is not yet writing. He's 3 years old, he's 4 years old, he should be writing. His mates in so school can write and he cannot write.
Yes.
It is so much pressure on the child. And if we keep on insisting that the child has to start writing at the age of 2, 3, or 4, we begin to even reduce their self-esteem.
Yes.
A child will suffer with so many other issues that they shouldn't be dealing with. So ideally, they should be playing so that they can develop those fine and gross motor skills. Yes, that's what they should be doing.
Yes.
That's what develops their muscles. One example I like to give adults, because for me, I always say that if adults can empathize with children, then maybe they will do the right thing, right? So one example I like to give is, if, let's say there's Usain Bolt, right? Usain Bolt. And then there's me. I'm not very...
Usain Bolt.
And then maybe like 4 or 5 other people.
Yes.
And we expect that all of us should be able to run
like 100 meters under 5 seconds.
Under 5 seconds, like Usain Bolt or whatever. It is so unfair.
Yes.
And what I mean is that, let's put it in the context of childhood. Usain Bolt is like grade 5 level.
Yeah.
Right? He has had lots and lots of practice. I mean, all of his years.
Yes.
For him to get to that level.
Yes.
And the rest of us who are just starting out, we have to start bit by bit, right?
Yes.
We have to start by learning how to even maybe jog, and develop some skills before we can start to run 100 meters dash and all of that.
Yes.
And so that's how it is with fine and gross motor skills. Their bones are still developing. So for us to force them to hold pencils and to write and all of that is just not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair. They can't do it. So they will get tired easily. The fingers will get tired easily.
Yes.
So those are things that we need to be aware of as caregivers of children. So developing fine motor skills, gross motor skills, any type of play, children are developing physically.
Yes.
That's part of physical development. And then the other thing is that they're developing their bones.
At the same time. Yes.
So what did you do for play as a child?
I cooked sand.
Cooked sand.
Yes.
So what part of development?
Fine motor
skills. Exactly.
Yeah, and then there were these leaves that looked like rice. They were really tiny. Yes. Then we would plug exactly. So imagine that's rice. And then we put it in a container. I think there was a time I went to go and get matchstick. And we lit it up. Yes. So the process of removing those leaves. Yes.
Fine motor skills.
Yes.
Using the matches. Fine motor skills. So all of that. But also you're also developing your bones. Your bones are getting stronger, which is absolutely necessary. So that when we become older, we don't develop bone-related issues.
Yes.
Like osteoporosis.
Yeah.
So that's part of physical development.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, is there like a pressure that comes to parents as regards my friend's child? Can write from 1 to 100. And just like the example you gave, a 2-year-old, same with my own 2-year-old that probably cannot do this, and then they end up putting pressures on teachers, on school management and all of that. So I don't know that you can speak to that a little.
Yes, like I said, it's a controversial issue because like you said, it's adult peer pressure.
Yes.
That, I went to so place, my friend's child can write. They're even writing 1 to 500. And all of that.
Yes.
And my child cannot even write 1.
Yes.
What are you doing in that school? And on and on. What parents need to be thinking about is, why should my 2-year-old be writing?
Yeah.
And so be curious about that, about finding out if it is appropriate.
At first.
Yes, because is it age and developmentally appropriate, right? I mean, go to health websites like CDC. They have developmental milestones of what children should be achieving at different ages.
Yes.
And so it's about what is appropriate for the child rather than what are other people doing.
Yes. Yes.
And it's also I think it's an African thing.
It's an African thing.
Yes. It is, In other parts of the world, children do not even go to school early because they should be playing. They should be learning through play, just exploring and developing through play.
Yes.
And there's lots of information for parents there to understand why your child should not be in school before the age of 5 or 6, so that they're developing some of those muscles and skills.
Yeah, wow. That's profound. The conversation is already getting interesting. So at this point, I don't know that we can move to another part of development. So for social development, like, how do you think play can really come into play?
Okay, so when I think about social development, people sometimes, when I ask parents why you want your child to go to school at 2 or 3, they say for social interactions, for social development. But I think it's much more than they are thinking,
Okay.
So when I think about it, as a child growing up in the 70s and 80s, we didn't have all of this division like we have now in Nigeria, where Muslims separate themselves from Christians, where tribes, you can see the difference anywhere you go.
Yes.
But growing up, that wasn't the case. When we were playing, there was no Muslim, there was no Christian, there was no Yoruba or Hausa or Igbo or whatever it is. But also, we were learning how to respect each other's beliefs, traditions, and values through play.
Yes.
But right now, children do not have the opportunity to play in that manner. And so as they are growing up, they have little regard for other people's beliefs and culture and tradition. So play is so important so that we have an understanding of other cultures. We learn to respect other cultures. We learn to accept other religions and other people's values. We learn not to insist on our own way, but, having the ability to just be empathetic about other people's beliefs and accommodating it, So play is much more than just interacting and making friends.
Yes.
But it's also about learning how to respect other people. It's learning about cultural roles. It's much more than just just interactions.
Yes. I think I have had that kind of feedback that social development is just about interactions. And so it's interesting to hear from you that it is even more than that. It's talking about people respecting people's cultures, the value that people come with and all of that. It's just like, for example, what I was telling you that day, somebody lost someone and then I was like, okay, what was the person thinking? And all of that. And then you had to draw my attention to the fact that, okay, this is the best way that this person knows how to do this thing. So I'm learning that social development is just beyond the interaction, but learning to understand with people from where they're coming from.
Right.
Yes, not just all about, okay, my child can interact well with so person and all of that. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
You're right.
Yes.
I think the other thing to think about is also that it's about understanding power. So understanding that there's a leader, there's their followers. If you see children playing, when they're role playing, they say, okay, I'm the mommy, I'm the daddy, this one is the child and all of that. Or they will say something like, I'm doctor, I'm this. So you're understanding that there are different levels of power.
Yes.
There are times when you are the leader. And when you are the leader, how do you lead?
Yes.
And when you are the follower, how do you interact with the leader?
Yes.
So it's understanding different levels of power. If you see adults now that don't know how to just respect the leader or even accept that I'm just a follower.
Yes.
And also understanding how to support the leader at some point, So, but it starts from childhood. Children learn those things from childhood.
Wow. That's interesting. So moving on to the other one, which is the emotional development. So I would just want you to, for the most part, most people join social emotional. And here in our podcast, we're separating social from emotional. So I just want you to say a little bit of why it is important to, touch on the emotional on its own and then the social on its own, and then we just speak about how play plays a role in the emotional development.
Okay, well, it's just so that we can talk about it in a broader perspective.
Okay.
That's why we are separating it, and it's okay to separate it because it's important for us to think about the fact that we're also emotional beings.
Yes.
And our emotions matter. The ability to self-regulate, to regulate our emotions, is important in learning, in living. It's important. And the way we are trained, we sort of remove emotions from everything. You will see even at a place of work.
Mm-hmm.
I know people say, drop your problems outside the door.
Yes.
Once you come in here,
there is no problem.
Yes, but we are emotional beings.
Yes.
And we need to be able to self-regulate. I was sharing with you and the others the other day how I came to work in the morning on a particular day feeling,
Yes.
and I had to go out, talk to some friends, because as soon as I came in, I said, I'm having a tough day.
Yes.
And I knew that if I didn't regulate myself, somebody would hear it.
Yes.
So I had to go out. I had to go out and sort myself out. Yeah. So it's important for us to be aware of ourselves and aware of other people. So that's why we're separating it.
Wow. So can we speak a little bit about the role of play in emotional development? Because I believe that emotional development, I know all of them has something to do with each other. Like they are all intertwined. Like failure in one aspect might affect the other.
Definitely.
But specifically, I feel that emotional development has a lot to do with social development.
Oh, definitely.
Yes, because
they're all intertwined.
Yes.
Just like you mentioned earlier, social emotional development.
Yes.
But yeah, let me talk a little bit more about the emotional development and how play is important. So, one of the things that I struggle with is when teachers punish children that are not behaving well. What do? You're not going out to play, right?
Yes.
You're not going out for break. You're going to stay in class. You have to finish that work you started. Or, just because they know that children are looking forward to playing and they use it as. And I always say that please never use playtime as punishment,
like
depriving children of playing as punishment. In fact, the problem might increase. So the behavior that you want to reduce by making the child stay in class might increase, So we, because it's an opportunity for children to go and regulate themselves and also to sort of
escalate.
Stress release.
Yeah.
Is stress release.
Yeah.
A child may be going through something, so it's an opportunity for them to just go and take a breather and stress release. So even for us adults, it's about releasing some of that tension that we feel. It's also a place where, like, you can cry, you can learn how to just, okay, I finished crying, I feel better, and all of that. And taking in more fresh air when you play. Because, when you're playing, you use a lot of energy.
Yes.
And so you take a lot of
breaths, yes.
Deeper breaths.
Yes.
And the more deep breath you take, the more your brain tells you to calm down and to think. So that's why you shouldn't use play as punishment. Yeah. So, and there's so many aspects to emotional development. I mean, a child cannot concentrate. You can't concentrate if you are emotionally stressed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because I feel that some teachers don't take the extra mile to really find out what exactly is wrong with the child, to make the child not to, perform well in class and all of that. Like the child might be passing through some struggles at home, but at that time it means nothing to the teacher. The teacher is just like, okay, this child was naughty today because he or she was not able to write all of that, but not knowing that there's more to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Teachers have a lot of work to do. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But our work is much more than academic.
Yes.
So we have to take care of the human being that comes to our class.
Yes.
And they're coming with all the complexities of their home. So it's something that we need to be aware of. So you can't get the best out of your class if a child is coming with emotional issues.
Yeah.
And so many children who display behavioral problems, many of them have emotional problems.
Yeah.
So it's something for us to really think about.
Yes.
It's also an opportunity for children to be able to express themselves. So for them to express how they're feeling, yes, and think about it, and think about how they're feeling, and deal with how they're feeling.
Yes.
So it's important.
Oh, that's interesting. So we'll be moving to the last aspect of development which we have on the list today, which is the cognitive development. A lot of parents are like, I think you need to speak, because I've heard you talk about it before, telling us what cognitive development is all about, because some people think that cognitive development is all about academics. So when you say, oh, this child is developing cognitively, they think that, oh, that means the only thing under cognitive development means that, okay, the child is able to count 1 to 50, is able to recite the months of the year and all of that. So I wanted to speak.
Okay, let me put it this way. Academic is a human thing, right?
Yes.
Like we are the ones that created academics, right?
Yes.
But God created human beings.
Yes.
And when He created us to be able to have cognitive development, emotional, all of that.
Yes.
So academic has nothing to do with you as a human being.
Yes. Yes.
So cognitive is about the ability to think.
Wow.
So it's cognition. It's just the ability to think. It's about how your brain functions, right? So that's the simple way that I can explain it. Yes. So when we say cognitive development, we're talking about like knowledge and understanding of the world. We're talking about creativity. We're talking about those kind of aspects. Yes. So that's it.
Yeah. Because you see a parent, okay, just like different children have like their individual differences, you might find a child who's not really good with numbers, but probably good with words or knowing how to pronounce words, blending and all of that, and they're like, okay, what's wrong with my child? No, there's something wrong and all of that. And then, just like I said, I think in all these aspects, parents have to really understand that it's not about what is happening in the life of my friend's child, but my own child is unique. And has their own strengths and weaknesses.
So you see, now let's put academic into the cognition thing, right? So the reason for the confusion is because a lot of what we learn academically has to do with our brain functioning. And just like you're saying that children are different. They learn in different ways. They learn in unique ways. And so it's about us discovering how they learn, right? So, for example, with math, is it that I need to teach my child how to learn math in a different way, or even language or whatever it is in a different way from the other child? So what we need to be able to develop is all the different parts of the brain so that so that even the academic they will find it easier. You've heard me talk about my son and how the way he learns is by making use of his social abilities, that he has strong social abilities. So he uses that to learn about the subjects that he's learning in school. So just from listening to other people, interactions. By having interactions with other people, he will go and have A in his exam. So that kind of thing. So but when it comes to play, cognitive development, so children can interact with the environment and learn how things work. When they explore, when they play, they can learn how things work. They can think about how things work. They can think about, okay, if I put this here and then put this one here, what happens? Oh, this didn't work. let me try a different way. That's problem solving, and that is cognitive development. So all that creativity is all cognitive development. So children are interacting with the environment and learning about shapes, sizes, colors, all of that. Putting water in this container. Okay, this measurements, all of those things. And then they're also able to. It's practice of theory. So you're teaching them in the classroom. They should have an opportunity to practice it. And that's how their brain would keep it.
Wow, that's profound. Thank you very much, Ma. Before we go, what would be your advice, or should I say your last words on this particular episode to teachers, to caregivers, on the importance of play in the holistic development of children?
Okay, I think one thing I would say is that when you remove play in learning and development, you're being counterproductive.
Wow.
So you think you want to achieve success by removing play, and actually what you're doing is that you're setting them up for failure. And especially lifelong, not short term. I'm talking about long term. So you are setting the child up for failure. Play is an opportunity for children to gain mastery of a skill. So for teachers, for example, if you teach a child something and they can practice and practice and practice it, then they gain mastery of it. Because they're learning with all of their senses. And that is what child development is all about. You give them an opportunity to use all of their senses. They are, they're developing so many things. So with one play activity, you can achieve 4 or 5 subjects. One play activity.
I agree. I agree.
And of course, with one play activity also, all these areas of child development can be met.
Wow. Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you, Mrs. Gidado. It's always a pleasure having you here. And we'll see you on the next episode of Play to Heal. We hope you stay tuned. Please, if you've not hit that subscribe button, touch it. It won't bite you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Play to Heal podcast with Lami Gidado, brought to you by the Association of Play Therapy. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights into the transformative power of play. Remember, healing begins with a playful heart. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share the joy of play with others. Until next time, embrace the healing journey through the language of play.